Aqui é o Gabi do Sakura Japão. No corte de hoje vocês vão poder ver alguns depoimentos de professores de língua inglesa no Japão. Esse é possivelmente o visto mais fácil para os estrangeiros que não têm descendência irem para o Japão. É uma opção também para brasileiros, mas também para brasileiros que já estão no Japão permanecerem trabalhando. Pois com ele você não precisa ser nativo falante inglês e os custos são mínimos com a maioria das empresas, onde muitas vezes o aluguel é subsidiado ou pago e existe a cobertura do preço de passagem de avião quando você vai para o Japão usando esse visto como visto de entrada.
I'm from Michigan in the US. I've been in Japan for just about 9 years.
And you teach English, right?
I used to teach English. Currently, I'm still a teacher, but I teach at an international school teaching music.
Where from?
Italy, Rome.
How long have you been in Japan?
Well, like total 3 years, but I worked here for 2.5 years.
You teach English, right?
Yes, I'm an English teacher. In Japan, I was working for an eikaiwa. So,
Can you
like,
explain what eikaiwa is?
all right, it's like a school where Japanese people can learn English through conversation. So it's mainly conversation. So you have to be very open and friendly. In my eikaiwa, we only had adults. We didn't have children in my eikaiwa. As a non-native English teacher, because I'm Italian, it was a little hard for me to get a job, even though I have a BA and an MA.
Oh, because you're not native English speaker?
Exactly. And like that was a little bit like disappointing because sometimes I feel like if you're a native, it doesn't mean that you're a good teacher. But I'm a good teacher even though I'm not a native, and it was very hard for me to get a work visa when I was in Italy. So I had to get a student visa first, and then I was able to find a job. So that was a little bit tiring, but I did it.
I'm from LA. Hi, everyone. My name's Lena Bambino. I'm an educator here in Tokyo. I teach mainly kids. I teach at a cram school, and I also teach some people privately.
How long have you been in Japan?
8 years.
8 years.
Yes.
And you're half Japanese, right?
I'm half Japanese.
Okay.
I'm half Japanese and Italian Irish.
And from Los Angeles.
From LA.
Okay.
Don't just put yourself in a box and think that's the only job available, because if you look into other jobs, there are other jobs available even though you don't speak Japanese. Yeah, so I say look outside the box.
That's interesting because I think most of people coming to Japan and teaching English because that's the only and the easiest way. But
Actually not, right?
Yeah.
So I love the job, but I'm sure not everyone will love it or like it. So just keep researching. There's a website. I forgot what the website is called, but you can look up different websites and they do have other options available. So make sure to check those out.
I'm from England.
England, you teach English in Japan.
Yes, that's right.
What kind of English teaching is it?
I have my own company and I teach lessons online.
How did you find English teaching job in Japan first 9 years ago?
I actually was teaching English in China at the time. I taught there for 3 years also. And I heard about the school I first taught at here in Japan through my sister. She was also teaching at that school. I was able to visit her and see what her school was like, and decided I wanted to move to Japan. Yeah, it was through my sister that I found out about my school.
Okay. I've heard many stories from my friends, like, finding English teaching job through mutual friends or friends who already work in the company. Is it true? Is it common in Japan for foreigners? Like, yeah.
Kind of true. Or at least there's a few main websites that people use to find English teaching jobs, accept people from anywhere in the world, and you don't need a connection necessarily. But a lot of people do find jobs through friends or relatives. That is a pretty common thing from what I hear. The one that I always use, which was called gaijinpot.com, that one seemed to have pretty good options, and I think most of the companies are legitimate. I found jobs through gaijinpot. My second job in Tokyo, my first job in Tokyo, second job in Japan was found through gaijinpot. Yeah, the job was fine. It was a legitimate company and everything. So a lot of the time people do have those kinds of, worries, but with the more like established websites, the well-known ones, you should be pretty much fine.
So I did teach some people in England English, but that was a very individual case by case, one-on-one. But then when I came to Japan, I searched a lot, and I tried one other job beforehand, and then I moved to a full-time job. Online, I just searched any kind of job search engine, but the key one was Gaijinpot.
Gaijinpot.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, but it's quite popular.
for foreign people who come to Japan, I think it's quite popular because obviously it's completely in English. So I think it helps a lot of people. Otherwise, there's some difficulties, I think. Yeah. First of all, I started teaching English in a school, an international school for children between 0 to 16. And then I started working more with adults, and then I created my own company, and then started to progress online, and then the pandemic, so it kind of fitted nicely for me.
Big pro would be that you get to enter Japan. You know, you're supplied with a visa and you can come to Japan. That's a big draw for a lot of people. You know, you're in the country, you can explore, you can learn the language, you can do so many things. Con of teaching English in Japan is that English teachers tend to have a bad reputation.
I've heard of it.
Yes, because so many English teachers use that as just a way to get in Japan and then have fun.
Easiest way to come to Japan, is it true?
I think it's the easiest way, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of teachers will come to Japan, they don't take their job seriously, they don't value the students that they're teaching, they don't value their school, they just do the bare necessities, the bare minimum to, you know, fulfill their requirements at work. And then they just like go wild on the weekends. And like what you want to do in your free time is that's yours, your thing. But they tend to be the kind of foreigner that is loud, that is like disruptive in public. They tend to do all these things that kind of get looked down on by Japanese people, and that reflects on the rest of us, like all foreigners, not even just English teachers, but all foreigners in general. Because I think a lot of Japanese people assume that if you're a foreigner in Japan, you're an English teacher. Another might be that it is a bit more difficult, I think, to learn Japanese, because at your work, a lot of schools are like this. Not all schools are the same, but my school, you could not speak Japanese with the students.
Because you
Students-
teach English.
Right, you're teaching them English. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're not able to speak Japanese, and you have to tell the students, you know, stop speaking Japanese in the classroom, it becomes like an English environment, which is good for the kids, but then you aren't provided with opportunities to learn. And that's fine. Like, you can take the time outside of your work to learn Japanese. But when you're at work almost 24/7, which is a lot of schools, unfortunately, they really work you hard. It feels like your whole life is just English, English, English. And so you don't get the chances, even outside of work, to like enroll in a class, you know, make Japanese friends who can practice the language with you. I would come home from work and just be so exhausted I wouldn't want to do anything. I wouldn't want to enroll in a class. I wouldn't want to go out and explore because I was just so exhausted. And so my Japanese level was pretty basic for a lot of my time in Japan, those first few years. And so I would say that's another con that people don't really think about. You get excited to come to Japan and you think, oh, I'm going to learn the language so quickly and be fluent and, you know, interact with Japanese people, make friends, be able to watch anime with no subtitles. But it doesn't happen because it's just really difficult to learn language.
So, pros, definitely you get to live in Japan, so it's pretty cool. Also, if you teach an eikaiwa, so you teach adults and you talk a lot, like they have to talk with you for like 1 or 2 hours a week, you get to know the Japanese culture a lot. Because at an eikaiwa, as a teacher, you shouldn't be the one who speaks. The students should speak. So they tell you about their lives, their past, their like the things they like. So you really get close to your students. Also, your students will give you like some random presents like fruit. At first, I was so like surprised when it was like my birthday and they were like, hey, here are 2 peaches. Here, 3 apples.
Maybe because it's you.
Oh, maybe. No. No, they're nice. They're nice. They're also adults.
Nice. So that means like you get access to talk to local people while you're getting paid.
So that's pros. Cons, well, as I said, if you work for a Japanese company, sometimes it can be a lot working hours. Also, like not having time off. I had 10 days a year, which is not normal in Italy. 10 and sometimes I wasn't able to take off all the 10 days. So I could only get like 8, and I'd go to work when I wasn't feeling good because I didn't want them to like deduct my days off.
I think as a first year teacher, the money is not great. I think it It really depends on where you're at, what qualifications you have going into a job. A lot of schools require a bachelor's degree. That's like the most basic, qualification. That's gonna get you a very basic salary as an English teacher in Japan.
The money, you said, like, how's the salary? I couldn't complain. I wasn't rich. If you're just doing that for an eikaiwa, you're not getting rich. Like, hey, but you can definitely get by and like, I could travel, etc.
210,000 or to 230,000 yen a month.
That's pretty much like average salary, just in general in Japan, right?